an Australian YouTuber. You can tell because the image is flipped here. It is Mr. Bear from YouTube. Mr. Bear, hello. How are you
Hello
today?
there. Hi, Dan. How are you?
There we go. Okay, sweet. Yeah, Mr. Bear is a content creator on YouTube. In case you haven't heard of him, he is an ex-Catholic who just started making videos back in June of this year, so pretty recently. He reached out to me, asked to be on the show, and here he is today. So how's it going tonight, Mr. Bear?
It's going great. Absolutely great. Thanks for having me. I'm very thrilled to be on this show.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, for people who are first listening to you for the first time, what is the kind of content that you focus on?
Yeah, sure. Look, I like to respond to YouTube videos, usually fundamental Christian videos, and basically break down not only what they say but what they mean. And I like to use clips from movies or films and make my own clips, ads, movie trailers, just to add some humor to the commentary and just explore the reason and logic behind the videos and what they're saying and how they apply what they're saying to religious theology.
And we were just talking a little bit before the show, but I actually didn't know that you actually only became an atheist pretty recently, like only about like a year ago, right?
Yeah, exactly right. At the end of 2018.
At the end of 2018. So, like, what was the journey before that like? Were you like a pretty devoted Catholic? Were you like always kind of on the fence about things, or what was that experience like?
Yeah, look, it was one of those things that God was a part of my life every single day. I didn't attend church. I mean, I went to school. Every Friday we went to church in primary school, and it was a fire and brimstone type mass every Friday. So I was exposed to that side of religious theology, and also I went to a Catholic high school as well. Towards halfway through high school, I changed and went to a public school and was exposed to a lot of other faiths and religions, and that, I suppose, started me onto a long deconversion, which resulted in me stepping away from religion altogether last year. Yeah, so it was quite a long journey, and having a what they call a personal relationship with God, and that was with me every day.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well, as far as with my story. Like it was emphasized that this wasn't a religion, right? It was a relationship. Like that was kind of the go-to kind of phrase there, because that was how it was supposed to be ideally, like in your faith, right? You're supposed to pray every day, read as much as you can, go to these Bible study groups, like be in community with people. And like that's something that when I first deconverted, I really missed, because it was like, oh, like this was the lifestyle that I kind of cultivated. And now it's like, wow, I'm really glad I am away from it. But there's pros and cons to viewing your religion in that sense, right? Obviously, I think both of us would agree there's more cons than pros, but there certainly were like kind of benefits to that, at least in my experience.
Yeah, there was that sense of connection and being a part of something larger than yourself. And I suppose there's a lot of comfort in that for people, which I understand.
Yeah, for sure. I was saying, for those of you watching YouTube live here, Matt Dillahunty just walked by and he just gave me a glare, and I just waved him goodbye. He's just being goofy. So like that's something that I don't feel like a lot of atheists talk about too much when we talk. I mean, like, the content that we make on YouTube is a lot of, I'd say for the majority of it, it's breaking down other people's stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think there's a lot of merit to it, but it's hard to, I think one of the things I struggled with when I was first kind of coming out was finding other people to relate my experiences to.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least at the time when I was kind of looking for stuff, I didn't realize, like, because I had known people who were really strong against religion and stuff, or at least I was watching people who were like that. But like, obviously there was a transition, right? Like there was a before and after, and it's hard because we don't always get to see the before with a lot of people who make that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. That's right. Exactly right. And it's the background. Sometimes you see, the first thing you see obviously makes a first impression, because that's the first thing you see. But it's like when you're debating theists online now, or anyone of religious background, you have to really realize their background as well, and take that into consideration, which is where the epistemology comes into it, in terms of challenging that and why do they believe what they believe.
Absolutely. What a great question. Hey, somebody should make a whole show exploring that kind of concept. Wow, amazing stuff. Yeah, just kidding, obviously. But so I got to ask you though. So the Mr. Bear whole kind of persona you've crafted here, with the cartoon avatar. Can you explain a little bit why you chose that? Because I think it's great. I like the design you have.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's my wife's nickname for me.
Ah, okay.
All right. So when we met a long time ago, back in the 90s, 1999 to be exact, that was the nickname. I suppose things got hot and heavy, and when my shirt came off, that was the nickname.
That's fine. So how come your avatar isn't you with your shirt off then, like a shirtless guy?
Catholic guilt.
Catholic guilt. Oh man,
it's still there some days.
Really?
I'll be honest.
Is it still there for you? Like,
I'll be honest. If I'm tired, run down, and not feeling great, yeah, it can be there. It can be. It's.
How does that manifest for you? Like, in what ways is it still kind of, like
something will set it off. Like, I'm a big sucker for soothing music set to beautiful images. And so every time I see someone affirming their faith, it takes me back to how I felt.
Yeah, I can relate to that in some ways. I think for me, one of the things I had to really get over, and I'm pretty open about this talk, but was like the sexual parts of that whole process. You know what I mean? Like how, seriously, like how to deal with just relationships in general, because if you're really involved, like you or I were, I mean, like the way you navigate those kinds of things is completely different than you would, without all those like rules of engagement. Really is what they are, right? It's like, oh, you have to do things a certain way, and you have certain roles and responsibilities, and if you're thinking these thoughts, this is wrong, and if you're doing this is wrong. It's a whole rule book that you're supposed to play by, and like that was hard for me to shrug off for a long time. It was like, oh,
that's right. That's right.
I feel uncomfortable with this. Like, I can't do this. And it's like, oh, that's just the thing that was cultivated in my brain since I was a kid. It was absolutely challenging. And especially when you're a teenager, and especially when your grandmother lives with you.
Who is devoutly religious. So we're in a fairly modern society here, but having the old country beliefs living with you when you're 15, 16, exploring that side of yourself is really challenging.
Yeah, for sure. And where I grew up, I had a lot of older folks, kind of in my vicinity too. So yeah, that kind of get passed on to you. And like you want to make people proud, because they're watching you, and you want to be able to, put people's expectations. And eventually that kind of manifests into your own subconscious, where it's like these people's expectations for you become your own expectations for yourself. And then you kind of battle with that. So yeah,
that's right. And to go on a slightly different track, if you have a concept of heaven, okay, so let's go back to when you were 15 and I was 15.
Yeah.
What was your daily habit, right? Can I just say that?
What was are you asking me, or are you gonna give me an example?
Well, let's just say it, masturbation.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I should have figured where that was going. My brain did not put two and two together. But yeah, absolutely, of course, right?
Let's just go there, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you have a concept of heaven, well, there are women in heaven, aren't there?
Well, it depends on which heaven you're going to. Mormon heaven, I think they separate them. I'm not sure though. I'm not an expert on that. But
okay.
Yeah. In general, our version of heaven, right? The one that we had.
Yeah. And these women perhaps posed for certain magazines in the past, right?
Okay. All right. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Well, they're watching you, aren't they?
Yeah. So, it's this idea of like,
you have this thing going through your head, and then Yeah, do you see? I don't
Yeah,
know if you see where I'm going with that,
I
but
see where you're going with this. Yeah, and like
this is part of the thing that hangs over you in terms of religion.
yeah,
It's always there.
your ancestors are watching you masturbate.
Yeah, yeah, and the
Yeah,
women in the magazines are watching you because
and the
they
women.
pose in the magazines,
Yeah,
and
no, like
they're not with us anymore.
is it?
And so,
It's yeah, it's funny to say out loud. Like it's humorous, but it's like that is the real mindset. That is 100% the real mindset.
I'm just being honest, and
Yeah,
so you try to justify it with yourself and say, well, maybe they're proud.
maybe they're proud. I don't know. Like I think it's like, what are you doing up in heaven? Are you just bored enough where you got to watch?
That's right.
People do that, right? But
That's right.
yeah, I like that. I'm sorry that you have to that still manifests for you. I think I could speak for a lot of us when they say a lot of that does go away. I don't know if it goes away for everybody though. I definitely hear from people who are like, yeah, like I deconverted like 10 years ago, and I still have anxieties about going to hell and like man, oh gosh, when I was a kid, I read the Left Behind books like way too young. Like I remember picking up the first one when I was like in 4th grade, and I couldn't read a lot of it because I couldn't read as well. But like it was one of the books at like the teacher's library at my school, right? Like the teacher, they have their own books in the corner. That was one of the books, and it's like I had no idea this was like what was supposed to happen at the end of the world, right? Like at the end of time. And so like this was my first kind of exposure to that. And of course I'm a kid. I don't know. I'm assuming this guy knows more about the Bible than I do. And it's just like, whoa, like, this is crazy. Like I didn't know this. Like that's super scary. And like that, like I would go home some days and I would see like some clothes laid out on a kitchen chair or something like that. And I would like, is this it? Is this the end times? Did I just get left behind? Like that would super happen to me.
It's horrible.
I don't know.
So these ideas latch on into your consciousness, and they're simply ideas.
Oh, for sure. We lived by some train tracks at my house when I was a kid, and so sometimes the house would shake a little bit. But every once in a while, like I would just feel the house shake a little bit, like it's like it's the reality that some people live in still to this day. Like, and it's weird to us now. I think a lot of us, because for those of us who've been out a bit longer, it's like, oh, like people are still thinking like this. Like, yes, like I feel like I'm a million miles away from where I used to be. So if I could think back to like where it was just a year from my deconversion, I can surely see kind of, the distance has not been closed, right? There was definitely still some stuff I was working through. So
okay. Yeah. So look, it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Let's be honest, let's be clear. But look, every now and then, if the time is right, I get those feelings.
Yeah. And you just went straight to YouTube. You just like jumped on the train. Was it YouTube that kind of helped you in your deconversion a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing really available in libraries or through literature that really showed an alternative viewpoint. I mean, there was the Celestine Prophecy and all these other New Age books I was exposed to when I was younger, but they came across as fiction to me. And sure, there was the Quran in the library, and there was things about Buddha, but because there was no connection there, they didn't mean anything to me. So with YouTube and the advent of the internet and information and sharing and Google Scholar and papers and everything being available, it's opened up that world.
Yeah, that's another point to bring up too, where it's like, the internet has showed me, hey, there's a whole group of kids that had their own little subculture of like fears and anxieties from the Quran and like from their, Islamic communities and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just like, whoa, like this is cross-cultural here. Like we've all kind of have these problems, and now we grew up with these ideas,
So I thought you weren't allowed to say these things online.
Yeah,
that's how naive I was. And then I watched these videos with Vice Rhino, Godless Cranium, etc. And I realized, you can say this stuff.
Yeah, you can, and there's consequences for saying it. That's for sure.